Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. So, been a very busy week. Tons of Final Fantasy 16 news. Even posted an interview with Miyazaki that was done by 4Gamer. So, a lot of interview coverage this week that's been dominating what was supposed to be a lot of work on Versus. Caster Versus is still almost done. I might finish it right after I finish this, maybe after I eat something, but all the normal things still on the way. July 1st is the live letter. We'll be doing coverage on all of that, reactions to the various things we learn, and a few more predictions. State of the Realm is also back. We did an episode just this last weekend. We'll be doing another one next week with the live letter. Going to see if I can wrangle a guest for that one as well. And we have some other ones planned leading up to patch 6.2. On top of that, I'm working on a restructure of some stream incentives over on Twitch. Now, I know that doesn't really mean that much to you, but there is some overlap between YouTube and Twitch because it's been a very interesting landscape of content creation over the past year. I've kind of cruised because of the Fat Black Chocobo event last year, even with how much I had to help my mother before we eventually held that event back in, when was that? Was that May? Was that April? I don't even remember when Ultimate released at that point. I think it was early May when Ultimate released. Was it April 20? I don't know. When we did that event, because now my mother's, pretty much taken care of. Her and I just, every time we talk, it's a normal conversation and not, what are we going to spend on this? What are we going to spend on that? She keeps telling me she's going to post the update to her page, but she still hasn't yet. Who knows when she'll get around to that. But now I got to think about setting myself up for my own future. And while I've been kind of coasting on that event and using that in order to kind of relax while I also at the same time take care of my mother, now that's not how I need to think about it. Now I need to think about how I can evolve and improve and really kind of boost myself up, be my own boss, I suppose, in this case. Not that I haven't been, but I haven't been encouraging myself as much as I could be in the past year. So I'm going to be working on a ton of incentives for rebates for people who gift subs, who multi-month sub, who cheer, who tip, giveaways, chat rebellion, where chat can force the stream into a certain direction. They can take over, streamer not in control anymore, things like that. So I'm really excited to be working on that. And YouTube, I still have tons of ideas. It's actually a rare season where I have tons of ideas and then I'm interrupted by a bunch of interviews and whatnot. We have the Star Ocean thing coming this week. And as much as Star Ocean 5 wasn't good, I'll still be paying attention to Star Ocean 6 at the very least. On top of that, we have all the Versus series to finish up before 6.2, potentially revisits if there's enough balance changes in 6.2. On top of that, State of the Realm returning, these weekly Q&As. I also have a couple of other ideas, like a Reddit recap where we look at the top topics in the Final Fantasy 14 Reddit and maybe the official forums as well and go over some thoughts on those things. I want to introduce more weekly stuff. So even when State of the Realm is lacking, people have some more long form content on the YouTube channel, not in the form of things like a Let's Play. And I am also going to be doing a second YouTube channel, but strictly at the moment for Final Fantasy Count Up, which we will be starting probably next month. We'll be replaying through all of the franchise leading up to Final Fantasy 16, with breaks in between for new releases such as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Octopath Champions of the Continent, patch 6.2 and various other releases over the next several months and years, since we're going to be waiting quite some time for Final Fantasy 16. But those are just some of the things I've got in the works. I'm really trying to boost myself up and motivate myself instead of just coasting as I have. And hopefully you'll all enjoy it and you'll all be along for the ride. Anyway, let's get to the Q&A. I have no idea how many there are. I didn't peek ahead this week. So let's get started. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. In case you're wondering, I don't have any special Patreon plans. I considered making a Patreon goal for a second VOD channel just because the amount of effort it actually takes to do the VOD channel because of the way I do this channel is kind of wonky. I'm not going to commit to anything like that because we've largely just let the Patreon be the Patreon for supporting the YouTube channel. And I kind of like that dynamic. That way you guys don't feel like there's any content locked behind it. And that's it. It's just a choice at that point. So thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. You don't have to support the stream, but you do, and we appreciate that. The stream, the YouTube channel, it's all the same to me. You support me, and I appreciate that. So with that, let's get to the Q&A. All right, first question, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi, hope you're doing well. Same. I really appreciate all the 16 coverage as I'm hyped as hell about that game. And I have two 16-related questions. I have a feeling we're going to be getting a lot of 16-related questions in the Q&A starting in the next few weeks. One, do you think it's worth playing The Last Remnant to get a better sense of what to expect from 16? So the main reason, in case anyone's wondering why that would be asked, is Hiroshi Takai, the director, directed The Last Remnant. And no, I don't think so. Last Remnant is almost the polar opposite of what to expect from Final Fantasy 16. Essentially, your army in that game is your unit that does its turn-based battle, and there's lots of little ways to influence how a battle itself will play out. But that's, a turn-based game with these massive parties, since you have your entire unit present with multiple units that you can have at once. And I don't think that's going to be any indication of what to expect from Final Fantasy 16, despite coming from the same director. 2, do you think 16 will introduce any new icons or stick to the popular ones within the franchise? Definitely don't expect anything we haven't seen before, especially because we haven't even seen all the things we're used to. Leviathan, of course, being missing from all the trailers, and no indication that Leviathan will be present at all. So, no, I wouldn't expect any brand new summons or icons from the game, just sticking to the popular ones. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi. Just finished your most recent State of the Realm. Thanks. And you mentioned keeping up on Triple Triad cards. I was curious if you were a collector of mounts and minions. Do you make a conscious effort to collect them all, or is it more get them when you get them? For me, there are a lot of minions and mounts locked behind content I'm not super interested in. Whereas Triple Triad, Final Fantasy VIII is my first Final Fantasy game. And while I will definitely criticize it, I have put it in kind of that middle of the pack list. Triple Triad has always been one of my favorite mini games. So I don't ever feel like I'm being too pressured to keep up on Triple Triad. But the big thing is I already caught up for the mount. The main reason I caught up on Triple Triad was to collect the mount. So it's funny that, the correlation being drawn here with the question. And now I keep up with them in the case that they release more rewards like the mount. I am missing 4 of the tournament cards. I probably won't get those. I don't really feel like farming out the packs to try and RNG into them, like 1 in 100 chance, and then there's multiple of them to roll into. But the answer is only if I really want it. And there's a lot of things I want. Maybe I go on a mount or minion collection spree at some point for the ones I don't have, but I'm pretty content with what I do have on those fronts. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. I have a 14 question I thought of now. I've been thinking of doing Heaven on High solo for a bit and having so many Phoenix Downs drop. Do you think they should change the item in some way? As far as I know, it's rarely used for all that matter. It's mostly just a flavor item. How would you change it? I wouldn't change it at all. I don't think that more consumables being used in the rest of the game is something that's necessary. It's one of those things that it's either so insignificant that when you do find a use for it, it's almost hilarious that you're actually using it. Or it's reworked to be damn near necessary, because that's the only way you're going to make the item more exciting. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't change it or they shouldn't change it. That's just my perspective on the result of changing it versus not changing it. I just don't think they're going to, and I don't think they need to or should. I think it should remain to be largely a flavor item that has its occasional funny uses in place like exploration content, or even when you're running with multiple people inside of a deep dungeon, which, I'm sure you'll want to be holding on to them when you're running through the next deep dungeon in 0.3x. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good morning and happy Monday. Happy Monday to you too. In fact, it's more happy Monday for you, even though I'm happy because it's Sunday for me right now. And I probably won't read this tomorrow, but I'll take it. We know that duty support is being added to the rest of the game, but I was wondering of the possibility of more story NPCs, popping up. There are plenty of times we're clearly meant to be traveling with allies, but the lack of job role diversity has me concerned it wouldn't work. I think Thancred reclassified as a tank, so we actually have an NPC tank ally. I think we will see quite a few cases of allies being given either multiple roles or just having enough allies that if they can fill the role, they will. And if there is a role that's kind of lacking for that part of the story, that they will... how would I put this? That they'll fill it with like a random NPC, like a Storm Lieutenant Captain or something of that capacity. Yes, just a random Grand Company member or NPC that is no direct affiliation. But when we go through Heaven's Ward, I expect Estinian to be a duty support member when he's traveling with us. I expect Iceheart to be one. There's no reason to not do that other than inability or unwillingness to do it. And I think unwillingness really being the big thing, because it is extra effort probably to do that in some capacity to make sure that they are actually flavorful. But if they're going to be taking patch to patch to patch to do this, I'd like to see that little bit of extra effort thrown in, because that's one of the most engaging things about the duty support system that we have at level 70 to 90, is that we have those NPCs that are very, very intensely used in those dungeons with flavor text. And the deeper you get in the story, the more that's necessary. So I hope they put in the extra effort to do that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good day to you, Mr. Happy, and an extra hello for anyone that missed it. Not yet this week, but we'll get there maybe. I got a quick question for you this week. We've got the Arkasadara tribal quest in the game, and we know the Loporrits are coming. We don't know that. We haven't been told there's Loporrit tribal quests, but I agree it would be strange if they didn't do them. The devs mentioned who the third tribe would be. No, literally we have no idea who the 3 tribes are. Again, I do suspect the Loporrits are one of them. I will be shocked if they are not. But we didn't even know the Arkasadara were going to be a tribal quest until they told us that. So there's no reasonable way to say for certain who it is. For all we know, they could make it even like Sharlayan. They can make it like a rogue gallery of Garlean people. Julius could be in charge of a tribal quest, technically. That depends on if we ever do Garlemald Restoration or anything like that. I think a lot of people are suspecting we will at some point. But there are a lot of options. Some people even suspect we'll go back to Ultima Thule. And even though all of that is not technically real, they want to help build out the bar that's there. You know, a bar at the end of the world. So many possibilities, but no way of knowing for sure. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, you doing all right? I'm doing all right, and you are doing fine. Good. Wanted to ask any job theories you might have for the next expansion, possible jobs from past Final Fantasy games, even some other Square games or anything original. Zeppelin did touch upon a melee healer in the comment on her stream. Seems like a unique idea, and the rotation of mechanics are done well, could work. Also, any plans on a future video on another job prediction theory video for 7.0? Also, Bloodborne, give it to me. Siren! Siren! No! So first of all, I'll comment on the melee healer thing. I don't like the term melee healer. It doesn't make sense in Final Fantasy XIV. As a healer, you need to be fully functional at all ranges. That is a non-negotiable trait. Could they have a skill or two that requires you to be in melee range and they could be somewhat identified like that? Yeah, that's about the best you can do. But I can tell you this right now. If I'm a melee and I'm worried about where the healer's going as a melee spot so they can keep uptime, fuck them. I'm getting uptime. I'm the fucking damage dealer. I don't give a shit if you're a melee healer. Get out, okay? Get out. This is my spot. So that's how I feel about the term melee healer. It's like ranged tank. The boss is going to be in your face. You can't decide you're a ranged tank in Final Fantasy XIV. It's not like you have like shadow resistance warlocks and like you do in World of Warcraft or anything of that capacity. You have to be in range. Now, could we have a tank that's like a buccaneer and has a sword and a gun? Absolutely. And with a gun, obviously, it could be used at ranged. But I still wouldn't consider them a ranged tank. Even if they only had the gun, I wouldn't consider them a ranged tank. I'd consider them a tank that has a gun at best. So as for possible jobs, Geomancer is at the top of my list. As much as I know the lore supports them being very similar to Conjurer, and as much as I know we won't get them branching off of Conjurer, it's still always going to be that one job that's on the back of my mind. I think we are going to see more original jobs, things like Gunbreaker, which I know from Final Fantasy VIII, but Gunbreaker as a job is still very unique to Final Fantasy XIV. Astro even. Very unique. Its inspiration was literally an unplayable NPC that had one ability. And that's it from Final Fantasy Tactics. It's since been utilized in the Bravely Default series as well. So, but I think right now it's too early to make a prediction as opposed to just making a wish list. You know, things you think would be cool to see. And I know we all do that. One thing I kind of shy away from is trying to encourage too much of people asking me about specific ideas, because I don't feel like I should validate it. I feel like a lot of the times people do come to me with thoughts or ideas, and if I validate them, they almost use it as like, well, Mr. Happy thought it was a good idea, or Mr. Happy said that. I've seen it just constantly throughout doing this for years, where I say something and people use it as validation to shut down either other ideas or overimpose their ideas or their choices. And I don't like that. I don't like people feeling empowered by my encouragement, but I do know that we all do it. We all think of what if we had this job, or what if this job mechanic was there. I mean, we say it almost every day when we're playing the game, like, man, I hope this comes back, or I hope they add something like this, or level 100 ability is definitely going to be that. It's just a normal thing. So I just don't try to take it too seriously, but I know a lot of people do. So I'm going to make a video for something like that when we have more context to work off of. Right now, I don't think it would be a good decision. So there's a question prior to this that didn't have a hashtag that was asking why we don't have instance housing. The reason is just because it was never built to have that. They've always said that there would be way too much stress on the servers if they were to build it. But there was a comment that was talking about the only reason we even have individual housing was because FC housing failed. And that's not true at all. We were told when 2.1 came around that they wanted to make it available only to free companies at first, and that they would open up individual housing later. It was always part of the plan. So I don't know where that whole, like, it failed, so they opened individual housing to salvage the... No, it was always part of the plan. I don't know. Sometimes people just come up with these weird headcanons that I don't understand. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how's it going? Doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. My question is about some concerns for 16. Okay, with the announcement that you can only play Clive and not other party members really has been concerned for major backlash with this, as that was the case for Final Fantasy 13's party leader and Vanilla 15's launch. Even the latest DMC5, you can play different characters with different combos and playstyles. Sad to ask, you think this may be a case for future DLC patches? No. I think that Clive was always intended to be the only character. They never have an intention of releasing the others as DLC. But I can tell you this. If there was enough backlash that you couldn't do it, I can tell you right now it would be paid DLC. They wouldn't, I don't think it's anything they're planning on doing. Their entire goal is to make sure it is a full game as an experience. But when they want to do what they want to do, opening up a lot of these characters, opening up multiple characters is something that comes with some major concerns. Clive is not... How would I say this? Clive is not as simple to play as somebody like Noctis or Gladio or even just paradigm shifting in Final Fantasy 13. Clive is fully functioning 6 different icons with 6 different ability sets and 6 different ability trees alongside his traditional weapon, and then we probably don't even fully understand the entirety of the combat system, but on top of the various combos and everything that he can do, as we learn more, it'll probably seem understandable why we only have one character to play. That kind of depth across all the characters is very, very unlikely. Now, pointing to Devil May Cry, not just 5, but the entire franchise, Devil May Cry is built with these very, very narrow missions in mind, and they can recycle those missions across pretty much all the characters. They don't really have to change very much. So the big reason why they can even do that, and also let's be clear, Devil May Cry has a big history of releasing characters as DLC later down the line. Looking at you, Virgil. The game is built to better inherit those traits and inherit a new character or a different character with a different moveset. It's just they're 2 games built in 2 entirely different ways, and I'm no concern over Clive being the only one playable. I am more of the opinion that if your concern, and I'm not saying your concern, but I'm saying if the general concern that somebody has with a game, the sole reason they won't play it is because you can only play as one character, for me, that's like you were looking for a reason not to play. That's just how it feels for me as a fellow consumer. There are plenty of games where you play as one character and it is amazing. God of War being a very, very recent one. The Horizon games, Uncharted. I mean, most AAA games you play as a single character with a pretty well-rounded kit of options. That's what we're getting here. So that means if somebody sees that and that's their reason for not wanting to play it, honestly, you were never going to please that person. That person was probably looking for a reason to not play or to hate on it or to not enjoy it or to write it off. And I'm not going to lie, also, most of these people probably buy the game anyway. That's the saddest thing about it. Most people will see that. They'll be like, that's ridiculous. Can't believe that. No way I would play that game. Buys it. Then they complain about it after buying it, but they buy it. Just what happens most of the time. There was actually a second melee healer question. Also one without a hashtag, oddly enough. Which I'm going to assume, again, that's because of Zepla's recent thing. So there's probably some interest coming over here. My statements about melee healers just kind of repeated the whole term not being something I truly enjoy, especially with the way 14 is built. Holy crap. And while I was saying that, I didn't look at, there's a life story worth of questions. I have to skip around this one. I'm sorry, I can't read absolutely everything. We're going to be here for a while. Hey, hello, hi. I see you tried to lure me in with 3 hellos. I see how it is. Brought some extra greetings in case someone needs a spare. No, you're going to need a spare. Look how much text there is here. I'll do my best to condense it down. It's so... Oh, man. You listen, I'm someone who likes to talk and type a lot, too. I get it. But... Okay, so the first paragraph here is about encounter design, trying to get into Savage, falling asleep looking at guides. 14 combat feels so stiff and boring compared to other MMOs. Like going WoW and going through Guild Wars 2, I like the combat in those way more. Prefer combat reaction, like having a boss crash into a wall as we drop something or jump. My first question to you is someone who's played multiple MMOs, do you think 14 has good combat? Yes. Final Fantasy 14 combat is very much about giving you exactly the tools you expect to have against exactly the thing the game is built to combat against. It is then about branching out in ideas and thinking of ability combinations, themes, not just about the encounter design, but about the music and the ambiance. Every element of every encounter in Final Fantasy 14 extends past the boss that's hitting you. And that is something that I feel like I don't get most of the time in other games. I feel like most games stop at is the arena edgy and cool, and how hard is the boss? And that's the end of the thought process, essentially. But Final Fantasy XIV does so much to make it well-crafted and well-rounded. It's about improving yourself as a player against the things that you have to do in order to complete the fight, and working with the other 7 people to synchronize your actual moves. My second question involves job reworks. Playing 14 since September 2019. Finished MSQ when 5.2 dropped. I decided to play the 2 jankiest jobs at the time. You sure did. Summoner and Monk at 5.2. Oh, boy. Fitting the job Fantasy Monk. Really do enjoy the challenge of mastering something extremely hard. Okay, I think I see where this one is going. Is there any chance Square Enix would ever just make another job difficult to learn, but have a rewarding high skill ceiling ever again? I mean, this is a matter of perspective, because Black Mage is arguably the easiest job to learn the rotation, but the amount of mastery it takes to be good at the job gives it a very tangible feeling of progression. Now, on the other side, you have something very easy to approach like Summoner and Red Mage in the caster role. Varying levels of ease. Red Mage comes with some interesting pre-planning for when you do your melee combos, your mana stores for 2-minute windows, whereas Summoner is very static. You know, there's nothing really to say about that. But then you have Current Monk, which really confuses a lot of people. It can be very exacting on the Monk if they are not able to properly time going into their 2-minute window. They have to learn to be flexible about it and not just hard lock it. I have to enter at this GCD even if my 2 minutes don't match there. There's lots of little things like that that can be very expressive skill-wise, even if outside of those 2-minute windows, Monk is generally pretty smooth to keep up with nowadays. So this is a matter of, I would recommend branching out and trying to master other jobs in content other than the ones that you've already played or the ones that you're currently doing. So that's if you're looking for that kind of experience, because for a lot of people, that experience does exist. It's just a matter of how it's actually achieved. So that's all there really is for it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Greetings. Hi. Hope you and the other question askers are feeling like a regular hole full of... Oh, well. Wait. Right? That confirmed next week. My question in short is whether you think anything should be done to help players who sort of sleepwalk their MSQ on very easy and end up at max level at very low skill level. Well, for accessibility, but I can't help but feel for people who queue in at level 90 normal trials as DPS and end up with a pair of healers fishing for free gears. Used to get frustrated seeing things like that, but recently I've been thinking it's more the game's fault for having 0 rewards for doing more than the bare minimum. Any ideas on this topic? So I'm of the opinion that you can never make somebody try harder than they want to. People will sooner give up than try to improve. It's just in there. It's just in like humanity's personality to go for the easiest route through to something. And you can try to encourage some people. You might get a few, but more often than not, the people who have no interest in improving or learning will not, no matter what tools you give them. They'll sooner just quit. So I don't think the game can do anything else other than release more middle tier content. Stuff that when somebody gets level 90, they go into it and it has a modicum of forcing them to improve. Right now, it's pretty much you jump into the extreme trials, which is a huge jump from what you've probably been doing up to that point. And then into Savage, which might start off as a little bit of an ease of a difficulty curve, but then you jump up massively going into the 3rd and 4th fights. Then you have Ultimate, which is another massive jump over that. They essentially create giant hurdles instead of little hurdles for you to get over. So filling in the gaps content-wise with stuff that forces you to improve in some capacity, I think is the only reasonable route. Because then when people improve, when people get through the story and they want to try something else, they might be able to take little steps and not feel like they're being forced to sit down and learn all these things and read a bunch of text guides and watch a video and whatnot. They might feel like they can actually kind of figure out their own moderate improvements, and that can get people on the road to then doing research and looking to improve more. So I think that is the road to go. Now, you can also kind of do that on the way up, and technically they already do. You can do some of the what's been nerfed, like old raid content, but you don't. So I think focusing on the max level experience and that kind of difficulty curve is probably the best option. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hope all is well. Same to you. I've been able to keep up recently with the past news on 14 around Ultimates. I'm assuming no mention has been made of Ultimate weapons for new jobs for the old Ultimates yet. Yet I've been keeping a token just in case. Is there any word of this, or if they are aware of the man? They actually mentioned this by name. So thank you for prefacing that you haven't been keeping up. But even if you have been keeping up, it's easy to miss this stuff. Before Endwalker actually launched, they had made mention that there's been a lot of demand to this, and they are looking into it. I don't know where they are. There hasn't been an opportunity for them to really talk about this. Maybe it's something that comes up in the upcoming live letter, but they have fully acknowledged it. They have also said that it was not something they intended on doing, but the demand has been quite high, so they are looking into it. I would continue to hold on to tokens for the old Ultimates at the moment. I would not put them away. I would not spend them on a weapon you're not sure if you want to use. So that's where we are with that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? Yeah, you doing all right. As a follow-up to the question about stat points, hot reminder, you could put stat points way back when. Yeah. And did I not mention that when they asked about the stat points? Didn't I say we could do that? What is a system that has been lost to time, cut from 14 that you were like re-added, reworked? Oh, this is an easy one. 1.0, request to repair. You could ask somebody else to repair your stuff for you in 1.0. You can't do it in 2.x. That's easily going to be my first answer anytime someone asks me this question. And I know that that's before a lot of people's time, but do you know how many freaking raids could be saved by one person having the... And I know why they probably won't do it at the same time. I don't even think it's a technological thing. I think it's because it's going to discourage people to at least do the bare minimum of leveling their crafters, yada, yada, yada. But I want it back so bad, please. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Warning. Okay. Oh, no, there's a hello under it. I see. Warning. Completely nonsensical question. I like that. I like the warning, not the nonsensical. We'll see about the nonsensical question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. Who would win in a fight with Golden Bahamut, Perfect Alexander, Dragon King Thornton, and Godbert Mandeville without his pants? Oh, Godbert. That's... Why even ask that? You see, you had a... I see what made it nonsensical. Because you had sense asking, like, power curve between the different ultimate encounters and, like, how we would probably rank them. By the way, I think Alexander would win every time across almost anything. But Godbert? Once he's in play, there's no point in even asking the rest of the question. You just knew the last question. It's like plead the fifth on Wild 'N Out. You just knew that there was only one correct answer. And if they don't say that, they have to plead the fifth. So that's where I'm at. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Howdy, Haps. Hi. Hope you and your folks are doing well today. Doing all right. We are breathing. We are breathing. So that's a good thing. This question is food related, since something I don't see asked enough. First, here's a bit of a background. Some family members of mine have developed aversions to allergies to spices like cumin, and I've been looking for recommendations on what other spice or seasoning would work on beef dishes and others that use cumin. I've been using a mix of paprika and yeah, I would have been exactly where I went, such as green bell peppers, workaround recipes. In short, what spices do you like in cooking meat-focused dishes? So meat is not something that needs a lot of help. Fortunately, aromatics actually do a lot for meat, and patience goes a long way with meat. Salt, pepper, garlic. It's the Guga special, and it's a special for a reason. It's the only three things that meat really needs. Now, this, of course, depends on what type of meat you're talking about. A stew meat, realistically, still doesn't need cumin. I almost never use cumin in any recipe that I make. I use smoked paprika. I make sure to use some sort of aromatic like ginger or garlic, use some sort of herb like oregano or basil or something. And it just depends on the thing I'm trying to make. Great example. I've been doing a London broil as of late. It's a nice cheaper piece of meat that you can cook for a family. So it's what I grew up on when we didn't have a whole lot of money. And so simply put, a little bit of soy sauce, some olive oil, some Worcestershire sauce. By the way, if cumin is in any of these things, please let me know, because I don't know every ingredient in everything that I put in. So feel free to throw that out there. Not like you would have needed my permission to do that anyway. So yeah, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, olive oil, lemon juice, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, a little bit of crushed red pepper. Mix it all up. Put the meat in, marinate it for a couple hours, and then stick it in the broiler. Flip it once, after like 6 minutes or so. So that way you can get it brown on both sides. You can cook it all the way through, let it rest, slice it up, and serve it with maybe I really like garlic, by the way. I'm Italian. So last night, for example, I did a garlic butter roasted baby bella mushrooms. Don't know why I said potatoes. Baby bella mushrooms, where you kind of chop the stems off and then you drizzle them in this like garlic butter. You reduce some butter or ghee or something like that with some garlic, and then you season it a little bit. And then you toss it with a bunch of vegetables and either throw it in the oven or the air fryer and just roast it for 10-15 minutes or something like that. But you don't need cumin. Trust me, you can get away without it. It's a great spice. I've eaten plenty of foods that use it, but it's not a necessary spice. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, dude, hope you're well. Same to you. This might be a bit of a late ask. No, 10 hours ago. Works for me. I'll ask again in the most recent video. No, you're good. About to start doing New Story Plus, New Game Plus, and I'll get to the answer in game, but I don't remember it. So I want to ask you, do you remember what made Bahamut break out of Dalamud? So the big thing is he was getting stronger year after year because all of his worshippers were being kept in this perpetual state of life. And basically, the longer that he's being able to kind of harness their prayers, and the longer that he's able to just kind of pull in ether from influencing people on the planet, he's able to just break out. He's just stronger than he was 5,000 years ago. Now, the big thing was that Nail Van Darnus was being controlled by Bahamut, and actually had put a bunch of active effort into fueling Dalamud and pulling it towards the surface. Now, by doing that, essentially, it broke the prison that Dalamud was in. The actual final strain of it all was Nail being killed in 1.0, and all of the ether that Nail had, which was an immense amount, despite being a Garlean, they were just their life essence is very strong. It went up to Dalamud and was basically the last little stretch. Dalamud was already on its way down, though, so that just was a little bit of an extra push. The 1.0 story largely covers Nail's efforts to bring Dalamud down, and also covers Gaius's dislike of the idea, since it would reduce all of Eorzea to an ashland. And not to mention there'd be a big-ass dragon flying around, not like it would tolerate any of the other nations either. So that's the big reason. 5,000 years of prayer, 5,000 years of being able to gather ether, the rage, the hate, the strength growing, finally influencing people on the surface to feed it more energy. Not to mention, even before Nail, you also have Cid's father, who was influenced by Bahamut and was also actively making efforts to fuel the moon and fuel bringing it down to the surface. All right, some of these questions have been a little bit longer. I don't know how many are left, but we might go into a bit of a lightning round after this so I can get working on the caster verses. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. How do you do? I do great. I'm nervous because I'm trying to solo Palace of the Dead. Nervous isn't the word I would use. Bored for so many floors, and then nervous at the top part. That's how I would describe Palace of the Dead. All right. Is it okay to Happy OG-san? Hey, I haven't been called that in a while. Is it okay to consider someday opening a new channel to cooking and baking? So baking, no, I'm actually not a big fan of baking. Cooking is a lot more free form. It's a little bit more flexible, whereas baking is very much science. You know, there are exact measurements and exact chemical balances you need to achieve, and that's definitely not interesting to me. I also don't think I do it enough to want to make content on it. Not to mention that occasionally producing something cooking based is kind of okay, but you got to remember that I started this channel taking something that had been a hobby my whole life, making a living out of it, and it's completely changed the way that I have to approach my own hobby, because every decision I make in it, it needs to be considered how it will affect my business. If I do the same thing with cooking, then essentially I've taken another hobby and turned it into a part of that living that I'm trying to make. Nor am I an expert in cooking, nor should anyone be taking my advice too seriously. I'll speak anecdotally and not from a place of culinary education or expertise. Only what I've picked up and what I know and what I've learned, which could very well be wrong. And it definitely is, it's a possibility. So yeah, I haven't considered that because it's a whole lot more work for me to take another hobby and not make it not be a hobby anymore. You mentioned it was a hobby aside from making 14 content. I think it's healthy to do all your hobbies together. I don't. I prefer that, again, because my hobby became my career, if I do that again, that's essentially adding to that. So they go from being hobbies to being career choices. And I can't fully commit to multiple career paths like that without feeling like I'm going to be sacrificing something along the way. I'd almost rather just occasionally upload something cooking related on this channel as opposed to that. I wish to make a meal for a mother, and you seem to have interest in cooking, so I wish to watch. I think many may like to watch. Do you think it's an idea? Yeah, no. So maybe, again, I produce some other cooking stuff. Cooking live streams, definitely a possibility. I have actually done a cooking live stream before, but the setup for it is kind of janky for the time being. And also, it's just, it's not something I commit to doing very frequently. Also, the kitchen, I already dominate my office space, and sometimes I need to use other space in the house for certain content that I need to create. The kitchen is a nice neutral space in my relationship. It's a place where she's not working, I'm not working, and we can use it without worrying if the other person is, recording a live stream or, cooking something for content. It's a nice neutral space, and I think that's healthier relationship-wise as well. All right, like I said, we've actually had quite a few long questions and answers, so I am going to try to lightning round the remaining ones. I think I had actually skipped past something else here. Somebody had asked that they were talking about shorts, for example, and they don't like much about them. Yeah, YouTube shorts aren't super great, but the potential... So the big thing with shorts that I think a lot of people don't think of when you're not a content creator, the shorts themselves are not something that necessarily pay super well, but shorts are something that get around viewership wise, especially as a metric to a company, for example, that's trying to think, oh, hey, how can we spend our money budget wise for something sponsor related? If you have a decent flow of shorts and a company takes notice of that, then you can make money off of the shorts by taking sponsored shorts. That is generally how TikTok stars make their money. TikTok doesn't pay jack diddly squat for their actual videos, for the content that people are creating. That influence, however, does get net people sponsorships and opportunities. I don't even remember how much TikTok actually pays, but it's not a lot. And YouTube also doesn't do a whole lot on that front. So that's the big thing. You're doing it sort of like investing in yourself, but it also just allows people to have a better idea of what they can get out of your channel. If people are subscribed to you because you produce shorts, even if you don't make the money on it, there's a better chance of them seeing the rest of your content as well. But it is a very give and take. It's definitely a lot of time. I think most people who are doing consistent shorts are not developing them themselves. They are having editors go into their content and create the shorts, or they are recording bits and pieces of things that can then be strung together for shorts later, but also by recycling other content. I think a good example of how shorts can be used efficiently is probably Nick DiGiovanni. He's a cooking YouTube channel. He was on Master Chef, and as somebody who's watched it, that was the first place I saw him. And he basically releases a video and then usually has 3 or 4 shorts that come out of that video or are tangential to that video. So they can record like little bits and pieces. His shorts are also usually like 15 to 25 seconds and not the full minute, like I think a lot of people expect. But because he's producing all of those, that gives him a lot more sponsorship opportunities. He's already a bigger channel, so he doesn't probably need them as much. But he's able to invest in the future of his channel by being on top of something that, as long as he's handling it correctly, doesn't have any negative benefits. Or doesn't have any negative benefits. That's not a benefit. Doesn't have any real downsides. So I think that's a great example of how shorts can be used efficiently, even if the short system itself doesn't pay very well. Now, that was another long answer. So, like I said, I'm supposed to be lightning rounding it, but that is a very interesting topic to talk about. Let's see. Somebody saying they don't like positionals. You wish there was some sort of visual or rotation impact. There used to be. They changed that because it would essentially screw jobs entirely out of certain encounter design. So they are important, but they're only about 3% of your total damage. When you are going for that upper level gameplay, let me just put it this way. If you are really, really good at a job, then you're doing positionals and you're getting that 3%-ish total damage bonus. But if you're somebody who can't do positionals or unwilling to, there's a good chance there are other issues in your rotation and in your gameplay that are leading to more than a 3% loss of not doing positionals. It's just very likely a mentality thing. So while numerically speaking, they have about that impact, I'd say in terms of willingness to commit to the gameplay and willingness to perform it or ability to perform it, probably accounts for more of a difference than is calculated on pen and paper. So that's just my opinion. Let's see. So yeah, somebody also last week I had mentioned that a lot of comments are brought down because of downvotes, but there are like perfectly legitimate normal comments and like not like, I don't know, for some reason some things that get dragged down don't make sense to me. They just, some do, like there's like this like weird spam here, one that I'm just gonna remove from the channel. I don't even know what that is. But like, I don't know, like I'm looking at them now. Some of these I understand. Then these people are just weird. I don't even understand it. But like, there's one that's like talking about buff windows and stuff. And there's no reason for this to be at the bottom. Why would anybody be downvoting something that's legitimate advice? Like maybe that is the case, but this doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing in this comment that suggests it should be at the bottom, but there's comments above it that I understand why they would be at the bottom, and there's comments below it that I understand would be at the bottom. But I don't know. Some of the things that get pushed to the bottom do not make sense to me because they are things that essentially I have a chance of missing, but I don't know why. There was also somebody who like the last like 2 or 3 weeks has said I've been ignoring their question when I know for a fact I answered it. And in fact, somebody commented and said, bro, he answered your question right here, which means that person went back and looked or saw it in the video and then saw the name below and found it. So I don't know. I do my best to answer as many as I can. I definitely miss a few here and there, but that's about it. And then there's a few other comments here regarding the VOD channel. Yeah, man, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but I totally understand what you guys are saying, which is why I had mentioned that Patreon thing earlier, because that crossed my mind for a brief minute. But again, I don't want to lock the idea of having a VOD channel behind a monetary goal, but it does need to monetarily also make sense for me. That's really the big thing. And again, this goes back to the whole discussion about hobby versus job or career path, because I do this I do this content and I do it, you know, essentially for free, and then I earn an income either on people's viewership to my content or on their willingness to support things like a Twitch sub or a Patreon thing or a tip, or it's a service industry essentially. It's disguised as a gaming industry. That's the reality of content creation, outside of once you finally do get sponsorships and things along those lines. So that's my kerfuffle, is the amount of time that goes into it, where I cannot effectively do other things or render another video or edit this or edit that because I have to wait on this project to actually finish, or I have to put in the extra effort because it's again, kerfluffle is my favorite word for this. It's just a kerfluffle of issues that are not easily resolved. Not to mention that a VOD channel inherently cannot be monetized right away unless I announce that I'm making a VOD channel here, and then at least 1,000 of you subscribe and I get 10,000 views over there. There's so much request for it. Maybe I just commit. Fuck it, right? Might as well. I don't have anything to lose, I suppose, other than a little bit of time, but we'll see. I'm weighing your options very seriously. I just want you to know that. So with that, that's going to be a wrap for this weekly Q&A. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and ask your question in the comment section of the video below. I'm sure you'll have plenty after the July 1st live letter this week. Anyway, I'll see you guys later, and until then, take care.